Fro, it's always been here. Good morning. Good morning. No, it's good afternoon. Welcome, everybody. Welcome to Viterbi Live. This is our live chat with the prestigious alumni. We have a number of them on the bottom of the screen here. I'm going to have each of them introduce themselves in just a minute here. First, my introduction, in case you don't know me. My name is Paul Ledesma. I'm the Director of Undergraduate Admission here at the Viterbi School of Engineering. It's a pleasure to be hosting this live chat and to get some of our great alums here to talk with you about this process of choosing which university you're going to be attending come this fall. We know that as you're admitted to the university here and admitted to our engineering program, you have a lot of great options. And I thought, why don't we get together a number of our alums to help explain their process and their experience at USC, and for you to ask them questions. If you haven't done so already, at the bottom of this page, there is a form that you can fill out. And I see some of you are filling out questions right now. I'm seeing them pop up. So if you have questions as we go throughout this live chat, continue to ask them, continue to keep throwing them in there. I'm going to be monitoring those questions and then feeding them into our panel as we go throughout the evening here. We'll be live for an hour. We'll get to as many questions as we possibly can. And without further ado, let's introduce our panel. So what I'm looking at on the screen, I'm just going to call you out one by one. You can introduce yourself, let us know obviously who you are, where you're from originally, what you studied at USC, and what you've been doing since then. So Adi, why don't you start us off?
Sure. Hi, everyone. My name is Adi. Great talking to you today. I am originally from the Bay Area. I went to USC and I graduated in 2014 with a bachelor's degree in computer engineering and computer science. I also went on to do my master's, also at USC, graduated again in 2014 with a master's degree in computer science. So that's me.
Thanks, Adi. How about Coco? Alex Coco.
Hi, everyone. My name is Alex Coco. I'm originally from Danbury, Connecticut. I graduated from USC in May 2016 with a bachelor's in astronautical. Then 6 months later, I finished a master's in mechanical engineering. And I went to work for Boeing, first in Huntsville, Alabama, doing loads and dynamics for Space Launch System. Now I'm in Charleston working software engineering for the 787 program.
Very cool. Thanks, Alex. And Ali.
Hi, everyone. First off, congrats for the admissions, and hope this is a fun session for you all. My name is Ali Fakari. I was class of 2002, which makes me officially the oldest one on the panel. And I studied chemical engineering.
I'm the oldest.
Come on, Paul. You're younger looking than all of us. The gray hairs are already coming in here. I studied chemical engineering, then worked for Bain & Company doing strategy consulting for a number of years, went to business school at Harvard, came back to Bain, and then started my own firm about 6 years ago, helping build businesses for entrepreneurial celebrities and athletes. So congrats again, and excited to answer your questions.
Are you at liberty to tell who your clients are?
Just for you, Paul. So if that question comes up, we'll bring it up.
Caitlin.
Hi, everyone. I'm Caitlin. I graduated with my mechanical engineering degree in 2013, and I did the progressive degree program, which, Paul, I'm not sure if it's still a thing.
Yeah.
And so I then graduated with my industrial systems engineering grad degree a year later in 2014. I'm originally from Los Angeles, but I am currently living in London and actually currently on a project in Portugal. So I went to consulting at Ernst & Young in cybersecurity. So kind of completely different. I shifted from mechanical to industrial, and now I'm in kind of computer and cyber. So glad I'm here.
And Caitlin, again, I want to let everybody know you are in Portugal right now. And so yes. you are international, and it's very late at night right now. It's midnight right now there.
Yeah, I wanted to drink some coffee, and then I was like, maybe not a good idea because I won't be able to go to sleep for another couple hours. So.
Well, thank you for making the time for all of our students. I'm sure they really appreciate it. I genuinely do. Jeff.
Hey, everyone. My name is Jeff Newman. Born and raised in San Diego, then graduated with an electrical engineering degree in 2011. I also transitioned into consulting after graduation. I spent 5 years at Deloitte Digital, leading enterprise level implementations and software and design. Then about a year and a half ago, I transitioned to a startup consulting firm here in Los Angeles called Beyond Curious, where I've had the fortune of leading a couple clients that you may know. One of them is Lexus, and the other one's the Miami Heat. So being able to do some cool design work and building out new app experiences for our clients has been a great thing. So looking forward to your questions, and congratulations on your admittance.
Now, I couldn't remember, am I getting tickets to a Heat game or a free Lexus after this?
You know what? We'll have to talk about that after the call, won't we?
All right, cool. Lydia.
Hey everyone, I'm Lydia Madden. I'm originally from Atlanta, Georgia, and I graduated from USC in 2012 with my BS in Industrial and Systems Engineering. After college, I moved to Houston, Texas, where I worked in the energy industry for Phillips 66. And a couple of years after that, I got pulled to the Bay Area, where I am now. I've been working for Apple for the last couple of years. I'm a global supply manager for batteries. I see a couple people wearing my products right now, those nice looking AirPods, so thanks.
I didn't even put mine on, but I have them right here too.
Yeah.
So
they changed my world, actually. I love these things.
They changed my world too. I didn't think I was going to like these, and I love these things. So yeah, thank you. Sorry, quick aside.
Love them.
Let's get to the competition. Paige.
Hey, my name is Paige. I grew up in Newport Beach, California, went to USC and studied Industrial and Systems Engineering with Fro, who just spoke. Then I went to Boston to work for Raytheon as a software engineer, working on large-scale military systems, so the Patriot missile and then AMDR, air missile defense radar. Next, I went to Brown, studied computer science for my master's, and then I ended up with Google. At Google with actually Adi, we're coworkers, and we just got lunch yesterday. So I work on internal tools for ad support. So those YouTube ads, I'm sorry, but watch them. They're great. And then Adi is actually on Google Photos, which is one of my favorite Google products.
Yeah, thanks, Paige. I forgot to mention it. I wasn't prepared to go first. I got nervous. Yeah, I'm working at Google. I'm a software engineer. I work on the back end, and I've been at Google since I graduated. So, thanks.
Very cool. Thank you. Rohan.
Yeah, hey everyone. First off, want to say congratulations, and yeah, I'm very jealous of all of you who are going to choose to come to Viterbi this coming fall. I graduated, well, I'm from the Bay Area originally, graduated in 2012 with my bachelor's in mechanical engineering. After that, I went over to Columbia in New York to do my master's in mechanical, primarily to work on a project there that focused on New York City multifamily residential and industrial building energy consumption. After my master's at Columbia, I went over to Tesla in the Bay Area. I was the program manager for all hardware on the Powerwall and the Powerpack, the home and industrial battery systems that Tesla produces. Spent about 2.5 years there, and then came to an autonomous drone startup, also in the Bay Area, doing both program management, again, and business operations. So been here for almost 2 years now.
Wow, very cool. And Zach, last but not least.
Hi everyone, my name is Zach. I'm from Kailua, Hawaii originally, and went to USC and studied computer science, graduated in 2015. After that, I moved out to New York to work at Bloomberg as a software engineer. And after doing that for a bit, I decided to go small companies. So these days I work at a company called Button. It's about 70 people. We're building a mobile commerce technology. And actually the CTO and the CEO both went to USC, as well as one of the other co-founders. And I also met my girlfriend there, so I might be a little biased, but congratulations on admission to the best school on the planet. A lot of brilliant, amazing people that surround my life with them.
All right. Well, thanks so much, everybody. So we've got a lot of questions here for all of you students and also your parents that are watching right now. Thanks for joining us again. If you have any questions that you want to ask, just use that form at the bottom of the page. If you're watching us here on the Viterbi Admission website, that's viterbiadmission.usc.edu/live. There's a form at the bottom there. Keep filling out those questions throughout the entire live chat. We'll get to as many as we can. We already have a number of them submitted, and I'm just going to pop around inside of them as much as possible. And I think that this is a really good one from Michael Mandanis. And Michael is writing in from Edmond. And Michael, really appreciate you watching. His question is, how much time do you feel like you had for extracurriculars, and what were you involved in? More specifically, what kind of advice do you have to students as they go about their undergraduate experience? Who wants to kick us off there?
I can.
Okay.
Actually, sorry. I was really interested in USC because I knew that I would have a life outside of school. A lot of like the top universities, just like USC, are top universities because you study all the time, and all you do is study and do your homework, and that's all you do. But I knew USC was going to teach me skills both inside the class and outside the class. And I was involved in a bunch of extracurriculars, Society of Women Engineers, undergraduate student government, fraternity/sorority life. And so I absolutely loved it. And that was one of the main reasons why I chose USC, was because I was able to do both. And actually being able to do both, it gives you a more well-rounded resume. So when you actually go and do interviews, you have a lot more experience to talk through than just classes.
Other thoughts?
I played soccer at USC for 4 years, and I also was involved in some volunteer opportunities. So I worked with an organization, a student-run organization at USC called Troy Camp, where we volunteered and we worked with students, young students who lived around the USC area. We went to their schools. We did things like PE, taught them science and art and things that their schools couldn't afford. Yeah, and I just thought it was great. I also did a lot outside of school.
Paul, is JEP still around at USC?
Yes.
So JEP, which stands for Joint Education Program, which I believe started back in the 90s. I was there when I was there. Basically, it gets you involved in the community from a teaching standpoint. So as Adi just kind of mentioned, it's getting involved in schools, elementary through high school, and providing mentorship, different opportunities to just engage with the community in a more effective way. Obviously, USC is part of the community. It's not separated from it. And we have a strong bond that's grown over the years there. So that was an incredible program and got me really interested in teaching. And as a result of that, I kept kind of doing that. I taught GMAT for a number of years and SAT prep for a number of years, just to kind of stay connected with youngsters who were excited about learning and wanted to try new things. So I think JEP at USC helped me figure that out.
Youngsters. You definitely are the old man of the panel.
I am, man.
I forgot to mention, there's also a lot of extracurriculars like lab work that you can do. So I volunteered at the wind tunnel lab, and it's actually one of the largest wind tunnels in the world. And I was able to study the effect of wind on bird feathers. So outside of like the fun extracurriculars and the volunteer extracurriculars, and I did JEP too, and it was awesome. I did it every semester. There's also extracurriculars that kind of count on as a lab type of thing, and you get to work with your professors, and it's great.
That's awesome. Now, how many of you, when you were coming out of high school, were worried like, oh my gosh, I've been super involved in high school, and I'm worried that if I go study engineering, I'm going to just not do any of this? Was that one of your concerns, and how did you end up finding the environment when you got to USC?
Yeah, sure. I'll take this one. So that was definitely something that I was worried about coming out of school, playing sports and having all those extracurriculars. And I thought I would never have a chance to do those things again. But it was actually quite the opposite. Not only do you get to learn how to become an adult, which is, I think, one of the most important things that you learn in college, but you actually get to choose what it is that you want to do, right? You may not get to do everything, but you get to do what you want to do, whether that's recruiting and mentoring, whether that's spending time, in labs or doing other scientific things. You pretty much have the opportunity to do whatever you want. And I think that's one of the best things about USC, is that you have that opportunity to kind of make it your own over the course of your 4 or 5 or 6 years that you're there.
Actually, on a similar note, like in undergrad, and kind of jumping on top of what Jeff was saying, is that and at least what I found in mechanical is that the coursework from your freshman year onwards ramps. I mean, it ramps quickly, but it's actually pretty reasonable in terms of giving you time to get acclimated. And honestly, again, being more of an adult and more efficient with kind of how you manage your time in your day. And then, and I found myself with a lot more free time, which, gave me time to do some of the activities other people mentioned, student government and kind of being a part of a Greek life. But on top of that, like USC just being such a, large and powerful institution in LA has, I think one of the biggest things I did, they had and I think they still have a Visions and Voices program where they will bring, and it's often, or more often not, outside of engineering or non-technical, but different speakers from Jane Goodall. Stephen Hawking actually came a number of years ago, and they'll bring them into campus. You can get tickets for free. You can go see them speak, and you kind of get a lot of really good exposure to things that are even outside of your own comfort zone. And just because kind of just the USC's dynamic, you have a lot of opportunities, to kind of explore, or you have time to explore, and pretty unique opportunities that come your way. So,
and just to add on that, right, you won't have to do this by yourself. There's going to be plenty of support there, advisors, people to help you plan out what it is that you want to do and help them fit it into your schedule, so that you can kind of maximize your time over the course of your year as well.
Very cool.
I want to add one thing. Yeah, thanks, Paul. Yeah, so USC has incredibly strong academics, and we all loved Viterbi and had a phenomenal experience there and are flourishing in our careers now. But I want to mention that USC is like the complete college experience, right? Like you have football games, you have the ability to participate in all these extracurricular activities, and not all schools with such strong academics can offer such strong, like the complete well-rounded experience. I highly recommend being involved in the spirit of USC. I did that through football games and still go and reconnect with friends from undergrad and make new USC friends all the time. So I just had the greatest time and really loved the strength in academics and the school spirit.
Very cool. So there are a number of, switching gears slightly, there are a number of questions. I'm not going to even be able to capture every single one of them to ask, but just kind of scanning. Isabel, you've asked this question. Grace, you've asked this question. Diego, you asked the form of this question. Basically, it's about internships, job opportunity. How was the career exploration process for you? Specifically, Diego is worried about being an astronautical engineering major because he thinks he can't get jobs in the aerospace industry. So let's start with Coco there, and then let's have everyone else talk about their internship job search process as we go through.
Diego, I'm concerned. Where'd you hear that from? I just want to tell you right off the bat, I think my first experience at USC, I went to explore and I toured the Rocket Lab, and the neatest part was the seniors in the lab took the time to tell me all the jobs they were going into. So one of the seniors, when I was still a senior in high school, was going to Blue Origin. Another was going to SpaceX. A few were going to Boeing, a few to Northrop Grumman. So I think what you have to realize is, so my personal experience, I interned at Northrop, then went to work for Boeing. But how I got those positions was through my time in the Rocket Lab and in meeting the upperclassmen and the alumni of Rocket Lab, who then went on to work in the aerospace industry and could recommend really a plethora of jobs throughout all the top companies, in Southern California, in Seattle, to me. So I kind of, to answer your question, don't worry about being an astronautical engineering, just talk to people and really take advantage of organizations like Rocket Lab who have placed students into those companies before.
Others?
Adi, don't you recruit on campus for Google?
Yeah, I was gonna say Google. I know that Google does this because I come on campus to USC and we do active recruiting. We come back, we conduct interviews. I've done that too. I know Google has a USC recruiter, so it's a Google recruiter, and their entire job is to recruit students from USC, both for internships and for full-time positions afterwards. And I also know that a bunch of other big companies do the same thing, and also smaller companies in the LA area. So these companies want USC students. They specifically seek them out and do their part to try to get them to come work for them.
And I'll add one thing.
Oh, go ahead, Ollie.
I was just going to say I'll add one thing to that, because they're not just looking specifically for USC students, because that's obviously geographically driven. They're looking for smart, problem-solving engineers. They want people who understand the breadth of problems that you're going to face in any business, and they come to this campus because they know Viterbi kind of trains you for that. So I'll give you a couple examples in different verticals that I've seen. So I did internships at energy companies. So I was at Exxon for a while doing the petroleum upstream and the refining downstream. And then my buddies who were in engineering went to aerospace. So, you heard from the team here, there's tons of opportunities with Raytheon, Boeing, Northrop. They're all in the same neighborhood. And then all the big consulting firms who represent every industry across, the world, they want to be at USC because they know the Viterbi students are the best pipeline for getting up that learning curve of business very fast. So Bain, McKinsey, BCG, they're all on campus recruiting, looking for exactly what your students that you're graduating with are going to provide. So I think this is the right place to have that ecosystem, and the companies are coming here to get that because they have the demand for it all in LA.
Zach, can you tell us a little bit about your experiences?
Yeah, absolutely. So same experience as Adi, actually. When I worked at Bloomberg, we would send somebody out all the way from New York to USC just for the Viterbi Career Fair to do interviews on site. And I remember when I was a student, actually, I set up a meeting between a USC professor and a Bloomberg employee who was so impressed by the USC computer science curriculum that it helped create so much of that pipeline, because exactly what people are saying here, like USC trains people for a career, not just for a degree. So when he talked about what we were doing, he was so impressed that we created an amazing pipeline between the company and the school. And my experience was I was a regular at the career fair, but Viterbi gets its own career fair. The rest of the school, USC, has one career fair. Viterbi's got its whole own thing going on. There's so many people coming out to hire. And I found my internship, first one as a sophomore through USC, second one out in New York after that, which turned into a full-time job after college. USC provides you so many resources to find these people, and the school just trains you so well for a career that my project experience, the things we were doing were so relevant when I got to the workforce. And I can't say I see that in the curriculum of every school I talk to people from. I think USC in particular really knows how to get people to work in groups and understand how to lead and understand business and do more than just, read books and very math-related engineering. Like, we study a lot, we do a lot of work, but it really trains a broad engineer.
Exactly. It's not just the technical skills that you learn, it's also the social skills and the culture of working as a team and building something effective.
Yeah, so I had a kind of opposite, I just had a kind of opposite experience to Alex, where I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I knew I loved problem solving, I knew I loved engineering, and I did mechanical because it was kind of the baseline. And throughout my years, I had 3 different internships after sophomore, junior, and between my senior and my grad year, all in different industries. So I worked at Abbott Labs, Chevron Oil Refinery, and then GE in alternative energy. And every single one of those I got at USC at the USC Viterbi Career Fair. There's a career fair in the spring and in the fall. And then not just on top of the career fair, there's a bunch of other specific Viterbi events that the engineering school holds that literally get you face-to-face with recruiters during those recruiting times. So it's really important that you get yourself involved. But once you're involved, I didn't have any issues, and I didn't have any of my friends have issues. I don't know if anyone else getting jobs from Viterbi. They really do set you up very well, and they train you, and you're a great problem solver, and that's what the recruiters are looking for. And all the Trojans come back. Actually, they always wear pins, Trojans hiring Trojans. I don't know if anyone remembers that, but yeah, so do I. And we all come back, and we come back to USC because we know how USC trains and teaches the students, and we want to work with people like that. So yeah. Awesome.
So our next question is about research. So for how many of you conducted research or participated in research as an undergrad? All right, so good number of you. This question is going to be devoted to you. Christian from Fullerton, Isabel again from Albuquerque. You were just here, Isabel. How many questions do you have, girl? And Ralph from Virginia Beach. All asking questions about undergraduate research. How hard is it to get a research position? When did you start? Can you do it right away? All these questions kind of come in from these students.
Yeah, I guess I can jump in. I started research about 1 or 2 months after I started my freshman year. And I felt like the professors were really open to taking me on. I didn't have any research background from high school, and they were really great mentors at finding the right lab for me and kind of finding the right position on the research teams to contribute. So there were 2 different labs that I worked in. One was in human factors, so very related to industrial engineering, and then another one was just a mechanical engineering project that I happened to be very interested in that researcher took me on. So in my opinion, it was easy to find. I also was very active in going out and talking to people, but I was just amazed at how many opportunities there were for undergraduates at USC. That was one of the things that I really liked when I was touring all the different universities as a high schooler. And I found that to be very true. Once I came here, I was able to get involved right away.
Well,
I think part of why research at USC on the undergrad level is picking up is driven as a function of class size. So I remember, back in the days, class sizes on average were between 30 to 10. So professors are actually actively looking for involved students to get raise their hand and say, I want to try to do this. And on the chemical engineering side, there was a massive lab filled with incredible master's students who were looking for people to come and help them with their projects. So I think that was a major factor in just the involvement, but also the opportunity. So I think class size drives a lot of that, and also just being very proactive about wanting to get involved in those opportunities helps you pick up on what the professors are looking to do and help them with their research, and hopefully guide your path as well. And sometimes you find by doing research, as I did sometimes, you don't want to do that for the rest of your life and you want to try other things. So it opens your eyes to that as well.
Awesome. Okay, so our next question here, moving right along, is I got a few of them here that are somewhat similar. Andrew from San Diego and Nick from Reno are asking questions. Basically, can you take classes that are not related to engineering? Can you minor in something else entirely different? How much flexibility do you have? And I apologize, actually, Andrew didn't ask that question. You asked something else. I will get back to you, Andrew. It was Subahish who asked that question along with my other friend who asked that. So flexibility of things outside of engineering, engineering plus minoring, all that jazz.
Yeah, well, I can touch on that a bit. So I think like on a basic level, if I recall correctly, you have like your core, I think the core engineering curriculums are built up of units, and when you pay your tuition, you have a certain amount of units that are allocated every semester. And then you have some of the general electives that you have to take. So that's obviously one really quick and easy way of taking courses outside of engineering. Beyond that, or at least in the mechanical engineering program, I thought it was really well structured, where you, of course, have a lot of core like math and science courses that you have to take, but then you had a number of, and Paul, I don't know what they were called, but you have a number of like flexible electives that you could go. I took a couple of classes in the industrial and systems engineering school, and they were pretty flexible in that regard for sorry, what was that?
Technical electives?
Yeah. So at least they gave you like a pretty good opportunity to take courses within the engineering school in different areas that still counted towards your degree. And then lastly, at least I know I had on like 3 different semesters leftover units. I used a couple of those units towards an internship that I worked part-time at during the year, but I know I used a couple of them towards taking a really cool class in the film school, where you get to preview movies that are coming out throughout the year and discussing them and write papers on them. You get to meet their directors and actors and so on. And so from that regard, it was very flexible. At least, every semester, I'd say there was at least one of my classes at minimum that was outside of just engineering or purely technical.
Yeah, just a second on that one. That movie class is very popular. So you always want to plan that one in advance. When you become a senior, that's the class we all want to take, whether you audit it or want to write your papers. But I think the main point with picking classes is there's a lot of flexibility, but regardless, right? I think, Paul, one of the things that I know my parents liked was that it was only going to take us 4 years to get a full bachelor's degree, which isn't always the case at other engineering schools. So for all the parents listening, that's one net positive by having your kids go to USC. But you'll have that flexibility not only during the spring, during the 2 semesters, but you can also supplement some of those units with summer courses to be able to give yourself more flexibility down the road as well.
Just to sorry, go ahead.
Thanks. I also want to mention the summer study abroad program that's hosted through Viterbi, where classes are taught in an abroad location. I think many people on the call did that. Maybe someone else can speak more to it, but there's like tons of opportunities to creatively plan your schedule to get everything you want out of your experience.
There's study abroad, and I think there's research abroad. When I was there, I think I had the opportunity to go to China to do research, or I could go study abroad in somewhere in Europe. So there's a lot of opportunities.
Don't miss that trip. That was
There's also some really fun classes that are just small, low unit counts and not very high pressure on grades. So fit really well in an engineering curriculum. I took a tennis class at one point. I took an introduction to guitar class. That was super fun. I took a class on chess that was taught by a chess master. And I took a class on the history of Pink Floyd. Also a super fun class. Every week we listened to one album and discussed. Obviously, none of those were very hard classes. They were all extremely interesting, but with very little homework and very low unit counts. So it was actually the perfect way to like fill out the engineering schedule and have like that 3 hours a week where you get to sit in a room and listen to Pink Floyd and like do something really different. So USC's got some amazing classes out there. If you
so what's the best Pink Floyd song? What's the best Pink Floyd song there, Zach? What is that?
Best song? I don't know, Paul. That's a tough one. Don't give me impossible questions. Time.
Time?
Yeah, I love that song.
Okay.
The Clocks, you know?
I Gus and Them. That's okay.
Gus and Them's a great song.
So now is the chess. So I walk across campus and I see a faculty member playing chess with like 20 students at the same time. Is that the chess class?
That's the midterm and the final. So the final and the midterm is the entire class. So it's like you each have a board and you make your move and he walks around and makes a move on each board. And while he's walking around the rest of the people, you get to make your next move. So everyone plays the professor for the midterm and the final. You don't have to beat him to win. Every now and then someone beats him. It's almost impossible, but he's so distracted that sometimes you can get by him since he's got so many games to play.
Now,
that is the midterm. Hard at work.
Brought up overseas programs. How many of you did international or study abroad options? Okay, Coco. Are you the only one, Coco? Okay, Coco. About your I know about your experience, but tell everybody about your overseas.
Yeah, you were there. We got gelato one too many times. So me, Paul, and a contingent of other students from Viterbi went to Rome, and it was summer 2014, and I had the opportunity to take 2 classes. I ended up taking a writing 340, which is taught by Steve Bucher, who is the lead of the writing department, like the engineering writing department. And I also took industrial systems engineering economy, which was, Rohan mentioned those technical electives. I took engineering economy as my technical elective to kind of understand the business side of engineering. And what was neat about it, like in the moment, was you're in Rome taking classes taught by USC faculty. So I learned a lot. I got a lot out of the courses themselves. But in the evenings, I was going to the Colosseum. I was on the weekends. I was going to Milan. So it was really the best of both worlds, and I was doing it with my classmates, which was really phenomenal. And then in the long term, by studying abroad in Rome, I was able to take master's courses earlier on in my senior year. So I ended up finishing using the breast degree program. I finished my master's only 6 months after graduating my bachelor's. So, and that, granted you study abroad, you could also take a minor now, because it opens up some units in your schedule. So all those things we spoke about earlier about diversifying your education, that summer abroad definitely helps with that, while still being an awesome opportunity to just see the world.
Absolutely.
I did like a small study abroad. Paul, do you still have that iPodia program with Peking? Okay, so I did a lot
more than just that one. Yeah, the iPodia this last semester went to Greece.
Oh, really? Okay. So back when I was there, and I think I took that class in 2011, it was pretty much a joint class, and it was incredibly well done between USC, Peking University, which is like the #1 like premier university in China, and then National Taiwan University, NTU, which is Taiwan's premier university. And pretty much it was really interesting. Every evening you would have, like twice a week, in the evenings in LA, which would be the mornings in Asia, you'd have classes with everyone else being video conferenced in, and then you were put in teams with between like two and two students from each university, and you'd had to complete a project and so on. And then it was done in the spring, and right after the spring semester was over, you had to make about a 3.5-week trip, I think it was, I know we do it in different, or USC does it in different locations now, but we went out to Beijing for about 3.5 weeks to actually meet with all of your teammates. You worked through the final details of your project, and then you presented to, there was some pretty senior people at Peking University who came and watched. So that was really interesting, and at least was it wasn't a full study abroad, but gave me some pretty good abroad exposure during undergrad.
Very cool. Now, Andrew from San Diego, he asked a different question. I promised I would get back to you, Andrew. Thanks for being patient. I hope you're still with us. He's asking about, is the learning environment here at USC, especially in the engineering school, competitive or collaborative?
Can we say both?
You tell me. That's the question.
I mean, it's go for it.
Oh, I was gonna say what drove me to want to become an engineer was that I think it's uniquely collaborative. So it's competitive, like you said, both. It's competitive in the sense where people want to build the coolest thing, but it's collaborative in that they're willing to help each other and do it together. So one of the most noteworthy things from my education was I remember in labs where people were trying to solve a really difficult problem or working on some project that was really interesting, and other people would actually drop what they were doing and help and try to figure it out together, because it doesn't matter who did it as long as it gets done in the end, because the end result is very cool or interesting or productive.
Is that what you meant?
I had a funny story from a professor who went to Caltech and is now the dean of the School of Engineering. So this is Dean Yortzos. He had a funny story about how competitive Caltech was, and would say he would show up to the library and people would literally tear pages out of books because they were so scared that, that information might get out, that, it could happen. So I took that away and I thought, my God, first of all, this is back when there were still books. Now it's everything. But imagine something like that happening. You go to Levy Library or, trying to study, and that happens. Never once did that even come up. And as everyone kind of alluded to, it's very much collaborative because you learn from each other and you really drive each other as well. So while the competitive spirit is always going to be there, I think the reality is when you're learning something that's as difficult in your respective field as engineering is, it's going to require you to learn from your peers and to help them. And that's how the business world works as well. It's very much collaborative. It's not meant to be go off in a room and figure it out and come back and tell us what you learned. It's learn from your peers, help contribute to that, and the end result will be better as you work together.
Yeah, one thing I wanted to kind of add on to with the collaborative environment, it's not just study groups, which is one part. Some of my greatest friends from USC were my industrial engineering study partners, but also just the classes are set up for a lot of group work. And I think that's super important for success down the road when you're out in industries that are just very inward focused. They don't know how to pitch to others. They don't know how to work with others. And I feel like USC really trained me to collaborate with my peers, to be able to structure presentations really well. So I really appreciate that the curriculum is set up to be collaborative. And then, of course, we're collaborative with our peers and getting through all those tough classes.
I think the only time I ever felt that it was competitive is when it was graded on a curve and you secretly hoped all your peers did a little bit worse than you, but that was it. I mean, you all study together and you're all like trying to solve the problem. So there was not one time where it was like trying to compete against other people. You're almost all my projects were team projects, and then obviously the tests are by yourself, but everyone's studying together before the exam anyway. So it's definitely way more collaborative.
So my next question, I'm going to blend a number of these. Claire from Germantown, Wisconsin, thanks for submitting your question. Actually, Claire, you were the very first person to submit a question, so this is the very first question. Gabriel just asked it a little bit ago. There's a few others. Everyone's asking it in different ways, but let me kind of summarize and condense them down because this is a lot of them. For lack of a better term, is USC worth it? Is it worth it because maybe I've got this, I'm a California student, so the UC schools are here and USC is going to cost me this much more, or I might have to take out this extra loan, or I've got a better scholarship at another school. I think what everyone's trying to understand is like, what is the actual difference? And why did you end up choosing USC, and was it worth it to you? So I'm throwing a lot at you guys. Take it from there. What do you want to talk about here?
Yeah, sure. So, by going to USC, you're going to get the academics, you're going to get the extracurriculars. And I think as Paige mentioned, right, you're going to come out of USC being a well-rounded person, right? USC is grooming leaders. But more than that, you're going to get that college experience that you're never going to forget. You're going to make lifetime friends. You might even meet your wife or your husband there, right? Like long-term ramifications are going to come out of choosing USC. And it's, you know, looking back on my time there, it's the best decision I've ever made. And from all my friends who I still keep in contact, all of us went to USC together. We were all engineering students together. And every time we kind of reminisce on our time there, we always think back and go, that was the best decision I could have made, was going to USC and being a Trojan.
Yeah, Jeff, I totally agree with that. There's a lot of good schools out there. But I feel like USC just gave me so many options. It made me well-rounded. It offered me opportunities. And when I look at all my peers, we're working all over the world, not just the US, in very different industries and have amazing positions. And I think that USC just really grew me as a person, grew me intellectually, and helped prepare me for a great career. And I would have never chosen differently. This was always my dream school. I'm so thankful that I was able to go to USC. And it was absolutely the best decision, and all my friends would say the same.
Yeah, second that. Best decision I ever made for sure. Worth it is a question, you know, for every individual, but for me, everything about it was the best. You know, same story. My friends, a lot of them went to USC. A lot of people I still keep in contact with. We all have great jobs. It's actually really remarkable for me to look at all of my friends. Everybody I know in college works somewhere really good. And, you know, I know all my friends from college. I can't say I expected that from everyone, but somehow we all made it work. And it's really just, the school is, it's like nothing else from what I've talked to. I meet a lot of alumni networks since I'm pretty far away from a home base. And the people out here are still so passionate. I go to the football game watches out here. I host parties at my place. And I meet so many USC people, and there's very few other networks I've ever encountered where people still feel it so strongly. My boss was in the marching band. He's drumming the cadence on his desk still, you know, during work. I can hear it. It's people hold like the school so close to their heart. And I think that makes the difference at the end of the day is it really stays with you. And I think everyone here would probably agree.
Yeah, I decided to go to USC because I wanted to go to a football school with a great school culture. And actually, when I was deciding to go to USC, I was deciding between engineering and studying art. And my mom brought up the great point that, hey, you know what, art's great, but maybe USC doesn't make sense to go to a school that expensive for that. And I was like, that's a good point, but I want to go to USC. I studied engineering. I graduated in 4 years with 2 degrees, and I now have a fantastic job. I'm really happy at it. I think actually last year I asked my mom, hey, do you want me to pay you back for college? Thankfully, she said no, but it's just a testament. You know, it was definitely worth it, but for me, it was worth it for my parents to see how happy and well I'm doing. So yeah, I would say definitely it was worth it.
And just off of what you just said, I think a majority, I don't know if there's like percentage, Paul, but a majority of the people actually graduate in 4 years. And when I was doing my own calculations back when I was in your seat, I actually turned down a scholarship to go to USC. And I had talked to a bunch of other people in other schools, and a lot of people were saying, you know, most people don't graduate after 4 years now. It's hard to get into classes. It might take up to 5 or 6 years sometimes. And
you're talking about the other schools.
Yeah, other schools. Yeah, not at USC. And I did not hear that once about USC. And when I actually went and talked to everyone at USC, they felt like family to me, and they felt very comfortable. And they said, you know, we'll get you out in 4 years if you stay on track. And if you think about it, if you stay an extra 1 or 2 years, you actually at the other schools, even if they're cheaper, you're spending more money on the school, and then you're wasting the money that you could have been making outside working. So that was my weird thought. So I don't know if that helps you guys at all, but in terms of actually getting your money's worth, just going to a school that you feel the most comfortable is the school that is going to be the most successful for you. And I just felt at home at USC. Every time I walked on campus, I knew I was in the right spot. Everyone was so friendly, and I knew I was going to succeed there. And so that's why I chose USC.
And there's one point that Caitlin just brought up that I think lends itself well to this return on investment. It's what is the opportunity cost, right? So you hear a lot these days about people going, you know, foregoing undergrad and just going to start a business, or, you know, dropping out. I think there's always going to be that opportunity cost in the back of your mind. But the reality is, what are you setting yourself up for? Are you developing a platform on which to hopefully grow? And a lot of that comes down to your network. It's the people that you know that can help you and the people that can support you when things are going to be very tough. So for me, that was the number one deciding factor was, who are my peer group and who are the friends that I'm going to build lifelong relationships with and help, and, vice versa. I think that's what, got me around the fact that, look, I don't need a full scholarship. It would be nice, but the reality is that opportunity cost is far outweighed by the returns that you see when the Trojan family, you can pick up the phone and call someone up and ask for help, and they're there for you. So that was the major deciding factor for me.
Awesome. Another question, Nicholas Garcia here from the LA area. He writes in. Nicholas, thanks for writing in. What was the hardest part of being an engineer, being part of USC? And I'll alter the question slightly. What were you, when you were coming out of high school and you're about to enroll at USC, what were you worried about? What were you scared about? And ultimately, what did you find?
For me, it was not knowing what I wanted to do. And I think this is another important thing. It's going to be hard to know what exactly you want to do when you're 18 years old or when you're trying to graduate high school. But going throughout that process, right, you're not locked into your first choice. Like, for instance, I'm not sure who else on the panel changed majors, but I changed majors my sophomore year, and I was still able to graduate in 4 years. So it's definitely possible, and kind of choosing your best bet coming out of high school is great. But if you find out that you don't like coding like I did, and it was something you wanted to stay as far away from, well, then you switch your major from computer engineering, computer science, and you go to electrical engineering to stay away from coding, right? So you have that opportunity, a good year and a half, to really figure out what you're good at, number one, and kind of where you see yourself in the future. And then, going down the line, you might realize that you don't even want to be an engineer, and that's okay too. I think a few of us here are consultants, right? Some of us are strategy consultants. Others of us are technology consultants. There's so many things that you can do with an engineering degree. You can be technical and you can write code, or you can go the product or project management route. I think the key point here is USC engineering is going to teach you how to be a problem solver. It's going to teach you how to be a leader, and it's going to groom you for your career after school.
And that's, I want to let someone else jump in too, but just so you know, and I'm glad you answered it that way, Jeff, that answers Joel's question that I did not ask from Fullerton, and Kayla, your question from San Francisco. I think that helps answer your question as well about switching majors and not knowing what it is you want to do and what area of engineering, et cetera. So any other things that people were worried about, scared about, or what was hard?
Yeah, Paul, my biggest fear going into USC,
what's going on, Coco? Where'd you turn the lights out?
I might have a USC degree, Paul, but I forgot the sun sets at like 7:30 here. I don't really want to know. It's not my finest hour.
Flashlight on? You're telling a ghost story? What's going on?
I really do. I have my camera flashlight here. I don't want my phone flashlight. I'm not proud. I'm not proud of it. I still have a USC degree though, and you can't take that away from me. So back to the question. My biggest fear was failure going. I know it's like super broad to say, but I mean, high school was great. I had my folks. I did pretty well. And going to USC, my biggest worry was, what if I don't succeed as an engineer? What if I don't get a good job afterwards? And I think what I realize now in retrospect was that the USC curriculum and student body is built to alleviate that fear of failure. So my freshman semester, I had a freshman academy class, which was a seminar of 40 freshman students where we had one professor and then two upperclassmen mentors who essentially not only taught us the basics, the fundamentals of engineering, what we can do as an engineer, but also taught us what life was like at USC. What were the tips to the career fair? What are the best ways to study? What's available for, what mentor programs are available? How do you get a tutor from the Viterbi Academic Services on the second floor of Ronald Tudor Hall? All these little things, these coaches are setting you up for success, and you don't even realize it until you're a senior graduating, you've been successful.
Great feedback. Thank you. Anybody else? Anything else? Okay.
Similar to the not knowing what you want to do when you come in, I came in to USC as undeclared engineering. And I guess, like other people have said, it was a fear of, I I guess for me, it was a fear of commitment, but it was also a fear of failure. So what's something that has a good exit strategy? Something that's really easy to like find the next thing and figure out exactly what I want to do and what I'm good at. And so as an undeclared engineering student, they give you a class that they actually explain to you what are all the types of engineering, what are the options, what are different careers that you can go to from there. And I think, yeah, like other people said, that just set me up for success.
If you all could go back in time and do anything different, what would you do here at USC?
I think one, I can jump in quickly, but I think one thing that, and I'm hearing a lot of, well, there's a couple of things in general that I do different, but I think the biggest thing, and a few of you did do it, is I didn't do research as an undergraduate. And I just think that, well, USC has a ton of good opportunities to do undergraduate research. All the professors are super open, and I know a couple of you touched on it, like very willing on bringing on young undergraduates and help mentoring them. And again, it's all about, like, to me, the engineering degree was all about problem solving. And I thought, well, I think that doing research in undergrad is just yet another way of kind of expanding kind of your scope and kind of your way of thinking and solving problems that don't really have clear-cut solutions. So that's definitely one thing, if I could go back, I would take advantage of.
I didn't take advantage of the international travel opportunities. That was something that I would, if I could go back, I would have gone on the Viterbi school trip and try to find as many other opportunities to travel with USC students abroad.
I second that.
I third that, but that's why I moved.
Now you're working abroad, so that
Yeah.
Yeah, and if you don't, you always have time. When you get to your career, you can travel on your own. So that always can work out too.
Given your professional experiences now and even in the past, what do you think sets you apart from others that are working alongside you in similar jobs, but that maybe is different about you because of your USC experience?
Leadership, I think. And it's kind of everything that we've talked about, over the past 45 minutes or so. It's that well-rounded education, it's the experiences, it's the extracurriculars, it's everything. It's becoming an adult within kind of the USC family and the environment that really grooms, a lot of us into the positions that we've had to, not only be technically smart, but also to be leaders in our organizations. And, I think USC kind of attracts those types of people. It's that gut feeling you get when you walk on campus and the relationships that you make, not only with your friends, but with your advisors and people like Paul, where he can just call us up a couple days before. And we are all, if you look at us, we're all grinning right now, just excited to be here. Some of us graduated a couple years ago. Some of us graduated way more than that. So, this creates this family and that shows up, when you get into your career and your job. It's infectious.
Other thoughts? That was a great answer, Jeff.
I want to agree with all of that.
I was going to say, it sounds really cliche, but USC really teaches you how to be a problem solver. When I first graduated, I went into the energy industry in Houston, Texas, and I was competing in this 3-month training program at my job with kids who had masters in oil and gas financial trading. And I was like, oh my gosh, how am I going to ever, get the job I want out of this training program? And in the end, I ended up at the top of my class ahead of them because I just could adapt to things and learn on the spot. And they were kind of amazed, like, you have no background in this. How are you beating us at everything? And, it was just the fact that USC gave me a really good baseline to attack any kind of problem, learn my way around it, and succeed. And that's like translated to helping me switch industries and career paths and be successful at each one of those. And I really credit USC to that.
Yeah, really similar to problem solving is being able to look at the big picture. So I am a software engineer on a back-end team with other software engineers. It's very common that people get really bogged down in details and like very technical details. And sometimes you need someone to just step back and say, hey, what are we really trying to accomplish here? And what's the best way to approach that? So that definitely came from USC, my experiences both collaborating with other students on very interesting and big projects and classes, but also my other extracurriculars such as teaching young students, playing soccer on a team. Leadership plays into it as well.
I just think it creates very well-rounded people. It kind of forces you to get out of the comfort zone and get out of, not forces you, it kind of pushes you a little bit though, to get out of your comfort zone and try new things and be involved. And if you actually look at how that translates into you graduating and work, it gives you that opportunity to have a work-life balance. So I got out of school and I was like, okay, I can work now and I'll work a lot of hours, but I want that balance. So it really creates well-rounded people, because outside of work, I'm also involved in a bunch of other things. And like I'm on like an not interfraternity, but like I'm on my sororities graduate thing, and I'm doing a lot of other things on top of work. But it also, everything that you do outside of work trains you, just like everything that you do outside of schools trains you to be a well-rounded person. And I think I really got that from USC.
I want to add a comment. Thanks, Paul.
Paige, please.
Yeah, so where you went to school like sticks with you for the rest of your life, right? Like when people on my team at work ask me where I went to school, I just love saying that I went to USC. And I like to think of it like a gift that keeps on giving. People mention leadership and problem solving and looking at the big picture. And those are all things I use daily at my job. But also, Adi and I met after college, and now we just had this like instant connection, both knowing we went to USC. We get together regularly. We're both on this call together. So USC has been this gift that's kept on giving outside of LA for me.
And I'll add one thing to that, because I keep in touch with about half this panel on a board that's very involved with USC called the Emerging Leaders Board. A lot of times when you graduate school, that's it. You're done and you go off in your career, and maybe you become super successful and give back and they name a building after you. But what USC is fostering these days is much more, giving back through time, effort. Money is always nice, but it's that connection with the school that really matters. And I think young alumni often don't do that or don't have the opportunity to do that. And what USC's kind of established specifically at Viterbi is this opportunity to stay connected with your peers, with your professors, with students, and give back in the ways that you care about. So I think that's probably the biggest thing that I wish I had more of when I was at school. And now that it exists, I see the path that it opens up for people who are on a campus and for recruiters who are coming to find the next great students. So I think that connection is what really makes all this really work.
That was awesome. I think what we ended up doing in those last couple of questions is handle a combination of new questions from Isabel, and she asked another one, and Hunt from Mountain Brook, Alabama. I think we handled your questions with that. Jolene from San Francisco, I think we handled your questions as well in those last couple sets. One last question, because I think we've been hitting it pretty hard here about USC. What's the best place to eat in LA?
In-N-Out Burger.
In-N-Out. Who said In-N-Out?
I did.
Paige, okay. Wait, Coco?
Bestia in the Arts District. That's my favorite.
Bestia, okay.
Yansang Bak. It's a Korean barbecue place in Koreatown. I have dreams about it. I miss it so much. I back there every time I'm in town, send all my friends there. The food in LA is so good.
Korean barbecue, okay, great.
Ramen.
Ramen, okay.
Yeah, the ramen joint, Westchester. Go there.
Ramen joint on Westchester, okay.
I have a list. I don't think we have time.
Yeah, I'm getting overwhelmed at just thinking about all the good restaurants. I just don't even know which one to actually recommend, because they're all amazing.
I know, I'm hungry.
In LA Live, which just opened up, not just when I was there, it just opened up. Only 1 mile away from campus, there's a really good Japanese one called Katsuya. Yeah.
I got to put in a plug for two other alumni who weren't in Viterbi but went to USC. That started a hospitality business that's now one of the most successful in the country, actually. And they have about 4 restaurants in LA now. But my favorite from theirs is The Nice Guy on La Cienega. It's kind of a fun speakeasy lounge, and you never know who might come and play piano, and great food and great drinks.
Awesome. Very cool. Well, to wrap everything up, I often get asked what is my favorite part about USC. And it's these guys right here. The fact that some of you mentioned it already, but the fact that I can email you in the last 5 days and say, hey, can we do an alumni live chat? And then all of a sudden just like, you're like the Avengers. I just said assemble, and like all of a sudden you're here. And it's a testament to the experiences that each of you have had. You know, I've known a majority of you since you were in high school. And it's just the fact that I can meet students as they come through in this high school process, develop a relationship with them. We can work together throughout this whole time here. I can see you go off to graduation and go off to these great jobs and still maintain that relationship. The fact that I can email you off the spur of the moment like that, and really just, you know, say, yeah, I'd love to do it because I want to make sure that other people have experiences like I did. That's just a testament to this place. You know, no one person has any big impact on that, other than it's just the fact that there's something about this place that makes students that come here just like this. And for those of you watching, the reason we admitted you is because we see you becoming these people right here. We see you becoming these amazing professionals that brought all that potential and maximized it while they were here. So for everyone that's been admitted, again, congratulations on your admission. Congratulations on all of you, your admissions to the number of different universities you have to choose from. This is the hard part. I don't envy any one of your single positions that you have to choose between great universities. What I do want you to understand is that no matter what school you go to, I'm confident that you are going to make the right choice if you follow your gut and you follow your heart. If this is a place that speaks to you, if you hear these alumni stories and they match up with something you want to do, then we hope that you'll join us here. If you have any other questions, you can always feel free to reach out to me. I've emailed you a few times to join this. You have my contact information. You know how to get in touch with me. And also all of our on-campus events that are starting next week. If you haven't made a registration appointment for those events, please do so at u.usc.edu. That's you.usc.edu. And if you have decided that you'd like to join us, make sure that you submit your enrollment commitment deposit by May 1st. That is a hard deadline. If you need anything else, let us know. But other than that, we're going to sign off here. Please stay on, everybody, because we'll close out in a different way in a quick second. But for everyone watching, hey, fight on.